Guess you were picturing a different scenario.
I was following my path.
Jake Douglas, let's sign the Jack dude. Everybody wants me to make a Jake Douglas natty or not.
Did you ever actually try?
Oh my God, yes. I prayed to be changed.
That's not trying. That's waiting to be stopped.
It worked, didn't it? Case in point.
First time that I ever heard about an athlete being paid to be part of a camp had to have been 2022. And then I heard it again about the same athlete. And then I heard it again about the same athlete from another source. I'm not going to tell you who that athlete is, but I'm going to venture to bet that everybody who's watching this video has seen that athlete compete. Give me the answer! You know what camp they're from. Now, amongst those three different sources, I had various numbers, as low as $80,000 and as high as $120,000. So we're going to call it a six-figure contract. Now, what's interesting about knowing this sort of stuff is that you can then pay attention to what that athlete does. What they did before, what they did after, and what they did during their tenure with that supposed contract. And once you see the way that one person, one party operates, it starts to make you think about the way that everything operates within the CrossFit world. Now, that athlete is not part of the HWPO camp. They've never been part of the HWPO camp. And I'm also not inferring that's what's happening over at the HWPO camp. But there was a comment in my comment section on the list that I put up yesterday. A list that currently sits at 1,245 shares and 113,000 views. Now, that's 1/3 of the total open registrations from this past year. 248 comments. And first up, I want to bring up my chick, Alex Kazan. She wrote in there, Justin Kotler, ride or die. You may have seen the video that I did last year where it featured Justin Kotler, Alex Kazan, or Ricky Garrard. I did a 48-hour road to the game sort of thing with them. I got another one of those coming on Monday with a new athlete.
What's your Fran time?
I don't know.
But I tend to really appreciate those sorts of people. I don't really also blame people for taking money. It kind of reminds me of the NFL, and they're almost like free agents. And maybe you just heard about Juan Soto signing like a $750 or $60 million contract with the New York Mets after having played with the Yankees in the previous year. But the difference between Juan Soto going to the Mets having played for the Yankees is that there is this entire open and honest conversation about it. Jayson Hopper put up his video.
And I will see you later. Is that bad?
He's going to Coach L. He's going to Brute. I'm a huge fan of Brute. I see the things that they've done at the Dallin Peppers, the James Spriggs, the Daniel Brandons. I got nothing bad to say about Matt Torres, and unlike Taylor Self, and I've heard the things Taylor's had to say about Coach L. I met him during the quarterfinals, and I'm fond of Coach L. I actually think that Jayson Hopper going over to Brute is a fantastic Jayson Hopper move. It's about as close to a Juan Soto New York Mets signing as there could be, where he puts up the YouTube video and he tries to chat you through it a little bit. But that's not how a lot of these people came to be. I remember when HWPO posted their 2023 roster. I think there's a Reddit thread on it. And then when you look at my list, who remains from that? Like Brooke Wells, maybe? Anyway, as I rolled down this list, the one that a lot of people got caught up on was the Matt O'Brien, and I put retired. But when I say retired, it's kind of like Michael Jordan, who had retired, and it's only he is not unretired until he plays for the Bulls again in 1995 or 96. If you don't compete for multiple years, you're essentially retired. Patrick Vellner is not an HWPO athlete, he's a Michelle Letendre athlete. Declan Dahlstrom made a brief appearance, and now on the program. The rumblings about Jayson Hopper for the longest time is that he got caught up in the HWPO and insane asylum. He needed camaraderie, he needed friends. He went back to Spartanburg, hung out at CrossFit Crash, and now he's over at Brute. And I think he made it abundantly clear that JR is going to have a hand in this programming as well. And I don't know if that was as abundantly clear when he was at HWPO this past year. Jacob Heppner talked about Chris Ibarra recently. This was after the Crash Crucible. I put HPO because that's Jacob Heppner pays off. It's funny, right? Now, I actually started creating this list back in December. And at that point in time, Katrin was either injured or she was moving on to influencing. And then at the point in which I made this list, I had to add another finger, and now it is actually retired. Now, to give credit where credit's due, I think that HWPO, she worked directly with Matt Fraser, which many of these, if not almost none of these athletes actually do. They don't actually work with Fraser.
What did you say?
They work with various other coaches over at HWPO. Maybe that's the issue. No one actually gets the Fraser they think that they're getting. But I think Katrin got some Fraser. She went from comp train over to HWPO, and she went up the leaderboard. So that's credit where credit's due. That's a Katrin move. That was great. And she was bound to retire anyway.
Wow.
Will Moorhead pays off. Kind of a joke. It's also kind of not a joke, because at the competitions, you'll see more Will Moorhead than you will see Jake Marconi. I believe that Jake is actually Brooke's coach, amongst other things. Jake Douglas, let's sign the Jack dude. Everybody wants me to make a Jake Douglas natty or not. You can do what I've done, and you can go all the way back to the beginning of his Instagram, and he looks exactly the freaking same. He might have longer hair, but the dude is jacked. And if you want it, it's right here. The dude is natural.
No! Yeah!
and you lose all credibility. It's like, no, I should actually be gaining some credibility. And this isn't a Jake Douglas dig, because he probably looks, and I wouldn't doubt or blame anybody for saying he looks like he's using performance-enhancing drugs, but he's either been doing it for 15 years, which isn't generally the case, or he's just a freak who can't run or bike. I think he's natural. Georgia Pryor comes with Jake Douglas. Built by Bergeron, broken by HWPO. Amanda Barnhart. Remember, she got all messed up during the pullovers at the games. Christine Kohlenbrander. I remember being a part of the 417 team forever. She was a complete freaking monster, and now she's kind of retired. Still looks like a monster. Jared Stevens, they're doing some stuff. Opened a gym, I believe. Sam Quant, HWPO. Harry Paley pays off. Harry Paley went from comp train over to HWPO. That'd be like Tom Brady following Bill Belichick wherever he goes. And he was kind of like the OG Patrick Vellner. Oh, you had my coach? Now I'm going to be an HWPO athlete. It's interesting. Cole Griesaber was proven in 2022. He's young. He's a stud. Strong, fit, the whole thing. Might as well pick him up, huh, HWPO? Yoink. Now, people are kind of confused about the Victor Hoffer thing. HWPO is not in his bio. He has not tagged them in any of his posts for months. He stopped tagging Stefan Facette, so I guess this one could go either way. But I did plug in a couple of the other training programs that he was a part of prior to HWPO. And I started this video off with the six-figure athlete, the first one that I heard of in the CrossFit space. NFL football players, MLB baseball players, NBA basketball players, they don't do what they do if they aren't making money doing so. I'm not saying that they're six-figure athletes over at HWPO. I'm not saying that if they were, that the Mayhems and the Provens aren't doing the same thing. I'm not saying that Jayson Hopper went over to Brute because they offered him more money than HWPO did. I also wouldn't blame him if any of these things are the case. But the difference between all of those sport entities and the CrossFit athletes is the transparency about what's happening. You legitimately know the contracts of the Juan Sotos of the world, and the New York Mets are not going to be using Juan Soto as a marketing piece to say, hey, you can become the fittest version of yourself, hit the ball as far as Juan Soto if you put on a Juan Soto jersey. And at the moment, I kind of feel like the old guy on the porch screaming at the cloud, shaking his fist in the air. It's almost like HWPO themselves already know this. I actually believe that I commented that in there in response to somebody because they said tagging them is wild, and I'm like, they already know.
It's already over.
Jake Marconi, my role at HWPO is changing. I will be taking on lead at HWPO's strong program, and I am stepping back from coaching elite athletes. This was an announcement made by Jake after Hopper had made his announcement that he was going to Brute. HWPO has also made a shift to move from the elite athletes over to the general population with their hard workers incentive. The ambassadors. It's like First Form. Kind of like everybody has a coupon code. It worked for First Form. I have no reason to doubt that it's also going to work with HWPO. It's probably smart that they're no longer going the route that they had been with the elite athletes. And the reason I say that is because you can just look at my list and see what it's done. As I said, they already know. It's not like this is groundbreaking. It's like, oh, they come in, they go out. It's like they had a Jenga tower built up with athletes and they're pulling out pieces. And Jayson Hopper was the piece where it's like, once he goes, we need to pull the cord or the tower's gonna go. I saw a Reddit thread about HWPO Flagship 1.0. That was their initial launch program. The sentiment was that they had missed that and that it's different these days. I wonder why the flagship program would be different these days than they were when it started. I suppose common sense tells me that everything must adapt and adjust, but who knows? But as always, I'm just pointing out the obvious, and I wanted to tell everybody what I was looking at. And Riller, out.
Now it's over.